Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us.
Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am Ace, and you're watching another episode of Sportsminute. Tonight, I am joined by my boys. My boys are back. And number one, we have him up here in the far corner up here, square one, Mr. Big B. How are you doing tonight, my man?
Hey, doing good. Getting caught up with some of our shows since I've been missing them, and shocked at some of the takes that certain people have. But it is what it is. But ready to talk some sports and recap. Whatever we get to.
All right. And then Crispy Bacon, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good. Another week of sports. A lot going on, and just here to cover it.
All right. And then Mr. James Gonzalez, how are you doing tonight? You're on mute.
Pearl Harbor was a love story? Huh?
So I've been told.
Yeah, said somebody.
Huh?
right, here we go again. I know you're very confused about that take. Anyway, we do have some great topics for you tonight. As we see, the MLB season is winding down. It is coming to a close. We only have about 20-some games left. Tonight, we actually saw our first team clinch their division tonight. The Atlanta Braves clinched the NL East tonight. I just want to kind of throw a quick little take out there for somebody who commented and said, hey, I want to throw a congratulations to the Atlanta Braves fans for that. And we said, thank you. And then somebody decided to comment back and say the only reason that they won it is because they're in a very weak division. And I'm like, what? They're 59. They're 53 and 29 against teams over 500, and you're telling me that they're not a good team because they play in a weak division? You've got to be kidding me about that. But anyway, the reason why we're simply bringing this up is because we know we have maybe one or two players on the Atlanta Braves right now that you could kind of consider in the MVP race. You have Ronald Acuna, that could be at the forefront of it in the NL. You also have Matt Olson that you kind of have to throw him in there. I mean, he's leading the league in home runs and ribbies, and he's having a phenomenal year. And then on the other side, you also have Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. Those I feel like are kind of the top four leading right now. And then the AL, you have Ohtani. You have Kyle Tucker that you could throw out there. You have Corey Seager. I think in the AL, though, I think a lot of people are kind of just coming out saying they feel like it's Ohtani and kind of a runaway. It's kind of Ohtani and nobody else. I would have to respectfully disagree with that because of the injuries that Ohtani has recently had. I think he's lost a little bit of ground in that. And I think like Seager and Kyle Tucker have now come up and kind of gotten closer. But I'm going to go ahead and I'll start with Big B on this one. So, Big B, who do you have as your AL and NL MVPs currently?
Joey Gallo.
Mm-hmm.
All kidding aside, I mean, yeah, maybe it's still Ohtani's to lose. I get what you're saying. The injuries, he's probably come back to the pack a little bit. Just kind of looking at the stats a little bit. I mean, Seager's batting 340. He's got 30 home runs. I mean, I guess that would be my secondary choice right there. But in the AL, yeah, it's going to be a Brave. I mean, Who cares if they play in a weak division? You can say that same thing about the Twins, but I mean, Matt Olson's 40 home runs, you got and 128 RBIs. You got Acuna with 100, almost 200 hits, 66 stolen bases. So, hey, it's the Braves. It's the Braves MVP to lose. Wouldn't shock me if somehow they got co-MVPs because they're going to take votes away from each other. So, hopefully not too much, but that's my look on the MVP right now.
I just wanted to correct something that I believe you said there, Big B. You said Matt Olson had 40 home
51.
runs.
I'm sorry. If I said 40, it was 51.
Yeah. I was like, he actually has 51.
51.
I was like, you kind of took 11 away there.
No, 51. If I said 40, I am so sorry. I was even looking at it, but yeah, it's 51. Yeah, you're right, Ace.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But I kind of am in agreement there with you, even though because for the longest time people were saying it's Mookie or it's Freddie. I'm not saying that it couldn't be Mookie. I'm not saying it couldn't be Freddie. But I think if you look at statistical wise, everything that Acuna has done, I don't see how he could not win the MVP at this point.
I mean, he's still batting he's batting 335. I mean,
he's almost got 70 steals.
And he's got 30. I mean, yeah, Acuna probably would get my vote because he's in top 5 in home runs. He's leading the league in steals. He's going to break 100 RBIs. So, yeah, Acuna's probably got a little edge over Olson.
Acuna could be the first person in MLB history to have a 40-70.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, if he had a 40-70 season, that is nuts. All right, so Crispy, who is your pick for AL and NL MVPs?
I'm going to go Ohtani and Acuna. I mean, they're probably the top two in baseball, and I think they'll probably get it, barring anything happening.
All right. So Ohtani there. All right. What's up, Christy? We hope you're having a good night so far. All right, James. So for you, who do you have for AL and NL MVP so far?
Well, definitely for the National League, I have Acuna Jr. The numbers you just said, the average, especially, that puts me above whatever else is out there. So I'm going to go Acuna Jr., despite the fact what Betts and Freeman have done, but they have Olsen as well with the Braves. It's amazing. And I just can't wait to get to the NLCS. Let's fast forward to that, honestly, with the Braves and the Dodgers. For the American League, it's kind of a logjam now. It was Ohtani, but with injuries and with him being out pretty much the rest of the season, I don't know why he would come back.
Is he out the whole rest of the season?
Well, they don't even want him to be out there DHing. He shut down as a pitcher, but I think now he's getting the opinions on getting surgery. So he's just doing that. He's not playing. He wasn't even there for the team photo. It was the funniest thing. They had someone stand in for him, wear his jersey, be the height he is, but they put his face on the photo. It was the funniest thing. So that shows you why Ohtani shouldn't be there. And then, getting injured like that, playing on a losing team. Like, I was always pissed in 2003 and 2002 when Alex Rodriguez won the MVP despite being on the last place Texas Rangers. I just hated that. I don't know why. But I want to give it to Shohei. I don't care if he's a two-way player. What's funny, at the beginning of the season, I said Kyle Tucker and Anthony Santander would be dark horses. And they would both be MVPs. They will both lead their teams in something. And it's happened. And I'm happy for both. I really am. For me, Kyle Tucker has more hits than Santander. So I would go with Santander. They both have 27 home runs. Kyle Tucker has more driven in. I would just go by those numbers over Santander. But I think it's between those two, and fitting that they're both on winning teams. So I thought those guys were going to be good from the start, and I'm very happy for them. So I'll give it to Tucker. I hate doing it for the Astros. I wouldn't mind giving it to Santander of the Orioles, though. But I'm going to go Tucker, AL, Acuna Jr., NL.
All right, so Callan's saying NL, Acuna Jr., AL still think it's Ohtani. The argument about the players team not being in the playoffs is invalid. It's about the value to the club, not the ending results of the team. And I completely 100% agree to that, because it's not the player's fault if the team is not in the playoffs. So I feel like it. But now for us, we can say that. But the voters, they may see it a different way.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just saying, for us in general, we can look at that and say, to us, it doesn't matter if that team is not in the playoffs or not. We can say that all night long. But the voters are probably going to be different. So mess around. For you, who's your AL and NL MVP?
AL, it's got to be Shoei. I don't think it'd be anybody else who's been dominant pitching and at the plate this year. Like, haven't seen that kind of thing since Babe Ruth, so I'd go Shoei for that, and then Acuna for the Braves and the NL.
All right. So I think everybody has like Acuna Jr. across the board with the NL. It seems like most people have Ohtani, but not everybody. But a lot of us have Ohtani, but it's a lot closer now than definitely what it was before. So
I almost wanted to take Wilson instead of Acuna, but I didn't.
You what?
I wanted to take Matt Olson over Acuna, but I just couldn't do it.
And you know what, though? That's the funny part, because we were talking about that. We're like, it could happen with Olson leading the league in home runs and RBIs. He could be right there, but the problem is just the numbers that Acuna has and the numbers and what Acuna has done. I think it's hard to overlook that. I really think it is.
Well, yeah, because Acuna's numbers are better.
Well, with the average, the stolen bases, it's right there. But Olson has them with home runs and RBIs and that. But other than that, Acuna has them basically beat in everything else. But I think what kind of hurts Acuna a little bit with the RBI side is because he bats leadoff, and that's why he doesn't drive in a lot of. I know he's gonna probably have 100 ribbies on the year, which for a leadoff guy is pretty dang good, but he could have more if he didn't bat leadoff. But I love Acuna batting leadoff because you can start the game with a bang, like immediately. But going into our next topic is speaking of home runs and everything else. Now, the reason why I picked this topic is because this came from the Phillies manager. Acuna hit a home run and was celebrating, and people celebrate when they hit home runs. And the Phillies manager came out and was like, I kind of find it disrespectful. I like the guys on my team to act like you've been there before and you've hit them before, and I don't like the celebration. So I don't know if it's coming because the Phillies just lost 3 of 4 from Atlanta, and Atlanta was kind of showing them, hey, right now we're kind of the dominant team. I don't know if he was just upset about that or if that's truly how he feels. But I don't know how a lot of people actually feel about people celebrating with home runs and various things like that. So last time I started out with Big B. This time I'll start out with James. James, do you believe that the celebrations with home runs are too much?
it's a slippery slope right now because we were all told, hey, let the kids play, let them do whatever they want. It's not like 40, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, where, if a batter celebrates a home run or stares at it, then the next guy's getting plunked, or he'll get plunked the next time he'll come up. Now it's a much different, softer generation where you just let anything happen, and then anything can happen. So I guess there's nothing wrong with it as long as you don't get hurt. But I was waiting for the Phillies to retaliate, honestly. They never did, really. You would have thought, hey, get the business handled, make sure, tell them, hey, we're not going to allow that. But then you get the penalties, the pitchers get more suspended games, so it's a risk throwing at someone. I'm not advocating for throwing at someone, but maybe you need to send a message. And I know earlier in the week there was that Pirate pitcher who threw at Acuna Jr. A couple of times inside, and Acuna got kind of butthurt about that. But it seems like it follows him, honestly. I remember he had a thing with the Miami Marlins in 2019 or 18, whenever it was. Urena kept throwing at him, and they kept having back and forth battles. But it's a weird dynamic between let the kids play and then are you showing off too much? And maybe it was a little too much by Acuna Jr., especially during the celebration of the divisional championship tonight. He was blowing kisses to the crowd. He was, waving at him or whatever. They were taking their times around the bases, and I know as a pitcher I'd be pissed, and the opposition, right? I'd be pissed at that. Just get around the base. Like Bumgarner would yell at the pitcher or the hitter going around. I would just yell at him to get around the bases. So it depends who you talk to, honestly. Depends on your side and their age, probably. You always talk about, hey, having sportsmanship and all that, but when you're a professional, sometimes that gets thrown out the window. All those unwritten rules either come to play or they don't. So I really don't know what to think about this. Let them celebrate, but eventually something's going to break out. That's what I'm thinking.
No, it will. And my biggest thing is look, celebrations, it is what it is. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it. If pitchers are going to get mad because the guy that just hit a 480-foot bomb off of you and he's watching the ball and he's celebrating, I'm like, it's not his fault that you threw a pitch over the plate. Mm-hmm. Place the ball better. If you don't want him to smash the ball like that, and be like, wow, that was a shot. Heck, if you hit a ball that far, I think to me, you have a right to celebrate, man. And next time, make a better pitch. Make it to where he can't hit it. Simple as that. If he's batting .335 on the season, it's not his fault that the pitchers are just putting the ball in a place to where he can hit the ball every time. But it's not just him. It's like Kellen was saying. 2020, 2021, the Padres were doing it. It goes back to that far to where Tatis Jr. hit that grand slam on a 3-0 pitch when they were up by like 12 runs and people were angry about that. And so there's so many different like unwritten rules that people go, you shouldn't do that, and blah, blah. It is what it is. Celebrations are not going away anytime soon. But even the announcer for Philadelphia had gotten upset during the season because when Ozuna hit a home run, they do those steps when they get to third. They kind of do those steps, but it's a memory thing. It's a dedication. But the Phillies announcers were hot about that and saying that's dumb. They should just round the bases and get home and stop that stepping crap at third. And I'm like, who cares? It's something that they do. So mess around.
It's like you said, if the pitcher doesn't want him to, prance around, do bat flips and all that stuff, he should make a better pitch. Shouldn't put it right down the middle. The pitchers do the same thing when they get a huge strikeout. They puff their chest, pound it, and yell and hoot and holler. So it's the same thing. Either with both sides do it.
Well, we have Will Polston's sighting to where Will's saying, I don't care who's pitching, our record, the score, anything. I hit a bomb. I'm hurling my bat and probably doing a jig around second. Absolutely, right? And so Callan is even saying, then again, the Phillies broadcast is one of the biggest homer boosts in MLB. They are. I feel like the Phillies just complain about anything and everything. I really do. I feel like their broadcast team, the manager, everything you hear, it's just a complaint. But if you don't want them to celebrate, make a better pitch. So, Big B, what's your thoughts?
I mean, I get the old school, saying, act like you've been there, but man, the juices are flowing so much right now. Braves are, just running away with things. I'm kind of with Phil. I don't care who's pitching, what the record is. I hit a bomb. I'm going to celebrate too. I mean, bottom of the eighth or top of the eighth, put my team ahead. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely celebrate, get into the dugout, put on the gold chain that Philly or that the Padres have, or here in Minnesota they do a fisherman jacket with a whole bunch of lures on there. I mean, it's part of the game now. You can't have it both ways. Let's be old school, but let's try to modernize the game and get fans in there. But yeah, I get it both ways, but right now that's the way the game is. And, like you guys have said, make a better pitch. A pitcher gets a big strikeout late in the game, they're going to pump their fist and, point to the sky. And, if one of them could do a backflip, I bet you they would. I'm just with the celebrations. I like it. I don't think it's going overboard. It's just getting the fans involved pretty much. I mean, what was the movie, Little Big League, that had a saying in there, quote, it's a kid's game. The grown-ups are screwing it up or something like that. So, I just say let them play, let them have fun. I mean, that's what baseball's all about. Yes, it's your job and stuff. Act like you've been there, but right now this is part of the season where the Mojos are going. Everybody's trying to get in the playoff seeding, get stats for the MVP race. Yeah, just let it go. I mean, it's not showboating; it's just celebration.
Yeah, I don't think that was Little Big League, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what movie that was.
Yeah, the grandpa says it.
Oh, no, it's the kid that says it when he takes over.
I thought the grandpa says, and then he says.
I mean, we could ask Isaiah; he might know. He's a big movie fanatic. So,
all right, Crispy, your thoughts? Our celebrations.
Yeah, I mean, no, whether you're scoring, a home run, touchdown, goal, a basket, you're going to celebrate somehow. You're excited. Like everybody says, it's a kid sport in a way. You're just getting paid a lot of money for it, but you want to be excited for it. And it doesn't matter, as long as you're not really taunting the other team, but.
Hey, there's Callan. Callan is here. What's going on, Callan?
Good to see you guys. Glad I made it.
Yep. All right. So, again, you hopped on just in time here as Crispy finished his. I'm sure you have something to say about whether or not you truly feel like home run celebrations are fine or not, or do you think that it's going too far?
No, I think it's fine. It's almost like what James said is, let the kids play is the big thing. And I also think, though, guys, and I should have wrote this in, but I never crossed my mind till now. But can anyone imagine if the NFL? I know that they have tried to get away from the excessive celebrations, Joe Horn putting his cell phone in the goalpost padding protector and pulling it up, or the Terrell Owen days and things like that. Exactly, James, just like that. And I think Will's onto a better point, though. It doesn't matter, who's pitching, how far out of first place you are, the score line, anything. If you hit a homer, you should be allowed to do something. And it reminds me a lot of Zach Davies, who was a Padre pitcher in 2020, 2021. But Adam, you referenced about when Slam Diego was born, when, Nando hit that, grand slam in Arlington, and they were already up like 12-4 or 12-6. And then it became like 16-6 or whatever. And Chris Woodward, got all, been out of shape, and the Padres hit, slams in the next 3 games against the Rangers. Is that, Zach Davies said it right. If you don't want a guy to, hit one out of the ballpark, your pitch should be better. So maybe it's a little bit excessive, perhaps, maybe in some people's minds. I think it's more of a thing, though, of the philosophy of managers, more of like a Rob Thompson, a Bob Melvin, I would even say, guys who've been around the game for a long time, who probably are like, okay, yeah, cut the crap, fellas. We get it, though. But at the same time, if you're not evolving with the times, again, like I said, the Padres broke out the swag chain in 2021. The Polaroids became a thing in 2022. Ever since the Padres did that, guys, look at how every other major league club has some sort of celebration in the dugout. Now, I don't know if that's a way that they are trying to like deter, like, take the detour of doing it like actually on the field. But, just imagine, any sporting event where no one's allowed to celebrate. Do we really want to watch like these guys act like robots and them not have their personalities or what have you? I was thinking about like Acuna Jr. doing the Trae Young celebration, or, whenever, I even think back to, the postseason last year, how guys, will hit a big homer and they will like, yell at the dugout, but it's one of those like, let's go, pick it up. We're losing here. And you get you hit a homer and you're yelling at your dugout, if I'm the other team and I see that, they're yelling at their side of the field. None of that is my business. So why should I care about what's going on with how they're doing things in their dugout? I need to worry about my own guys and my team, keep my nose out of what's going on over there. So, I don't know. It's a very weird, kind of, touchy-feely, somewhat controversial talking point, but at the same time, it's, let the kids play. Let them do what they want to do. If anything, we should be learning from the Little League World Series. Look at how all the international kids on like Curacao or the Dominican Republic or Mexico, look how those kids play the game and they're 12 years old. Yeah, we're taught about sportsmanship and respecting the opponents, but think about what happens sometimes in this year's Little League World Series, though. Literally, a kid is thrown on home plate. The catcher's like standing over him like, yeah, you're out, buddy. How about them apples, Stuff like that, So imagine, though, if like that happens in like Game 7 of the World Series, we're not going to, allow the team that made, the biggest out of the game celebrate that they just got, a big first out, a big signal. They got out of the inning, and we just want them to be robots and like, he's out, big deal, woohoo, I don't get it. It's very, it's a very touchy-feely subject where it's more along the lines of like, James brought up Madison Bumgarner. I think about, Chris Woodward when the Padres did their Slam Diego on them in 2020. It's more of like a clash of not titans, but like a clash of styles, I guess. That honestly, if you're not going to embrace people being excited about a walk-off grand slam or a big hit to win a ball game, then you shouldn't be playing and you should not be in professional sports. It's simple as that.
Yeah. So the only thing that I personally did not allow, like when I officiate football games in high school and stuff, the only thing that I do not allow is I do not allow another player to stand over the top of another player and taunt him.
Rightfully so.
And when they do that, I will throw a flag and be like, okay, I will let you get away with a lot, but I will not allow that. You will not stand over the top of another player and taunt them. I will not allow that on this field. And so that is like one thing that I will stop. But if I'm umpiring baseball, you hit a home run, celebrate. Not even a big deal.
Just make sure you touch all the bases and touch the plate.
Right. Exactly. All right. So, and Will talks about, Kurt Gibson. Just imagine if he just jogged around the bases after that big homer. Celebrations are a part of the game. It's a part of baseball. Nothing.
Yeah. If you don't like it, get out. If you can't, stand seeing someone celebrate their accomplishment against you and your team, then get out of professional sports. Simple as that.
Exactly. It's just All they're doing is having fun out there. They're celebrating an achievement. They're celebrating an accomplishment. So
Yeah, let the kids play.
Exactly. All right. So going on to our next one. This is actually an interesting one. I had to bring this up because they're talking about this and professional soccer and the MLS and everything too. And they're saying, is allowing heading actually a bad part of soccer? Is it dangerous for players? And when I'm looking at this, I'm like, well, yeah, I could see how they say it's dangerous to a player. I get it. So they're saying, should it actually be banned in professional soccer? I'm like, well, I don't know, but I know it's dangerous. I do, and I do get the aspect of why. But again, do you really want to ban it? I guess it's walking that fine line because I get it's for player safety. I do completely get that. So, Big B, with heading in soccer, do you feel like that's something that they should not allow them and they should say no more of it?
Man, how would you stop that in the pro level? Because you grow up and using your head. I mean, it's kind of like tackling. They kind of changed the way people should tackle in football, but man, that's tough because it's just so part of the game. And I mean, I guess the dangerous part would be both players going up at once, so you could collide. I mean, yes, we know concussions can happen with anything. The ball, I mean, you can get concussions that way too. But I don't know. I guess, man, it's tough because I used to play soccer when I was younger, and I don't know. I just can't see them getting away from that. I don't see how. Maybe they could start by putting the plastic domes on their head that they use in football, in some of their practices. So
The full 90s, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that's a start and see how that goes. But I just can't see them getting away from heading in soccer unless they start them young and just say, "Hey, you can't do that no more," and then go by generations. But it'd be tough to get away from.
Yeah, and I know they're worried about concussions and collisions with other players that you can end up hitting another player's head because you go up for it at the same time as them and whiplash and I get all that. But it's like you said, I don't know how you would stop it. Like really, I don't know. James, what is before we get there really quick, Tim saying there are so many leagues in the world it will never fly, and Will saying I'm an advocate for player safety, but where's the gray line between being safe and being soft? Collisions in baseball, sure. Tackling in football, headers in soccer, I mean, come on. So, James, what's your thoughts?
Well, me being a soccer expert, no. I think tackles are pretty dangerous as well. You can wear as many shin guards as you want, but I think those are definitely more dangerous. They happen more often than headers. But I think as evolution as a sport goes, you have to go away with things like the headers and using your head and being able to do that in soccer. And I would get rid of it somehow. I would either start here in America and then maybe it'll go overseas, but it's hard to tell people to refrain from doing such things. I think of it as like American football. When you think about the way that it started out, people were dying in college football, and they finally tuned the rules where it was a little safer as time went on. And now supposedly we're at the safest time, and maybe soccer needs to get to that point where we are doing away with heading, the sliding tackles. Maybe there's more punishment to it. I would like to see that. But, I watch a lot of World Cup. I don't watch pretty much anything else, but, I don't even remember seeing any headers really. Just a lot of tackles and cheap shots. But yeah, I would get rid of heading. I really would.
Yes, so Tim is saying slide tackling in soccer is pretty bad. So
Yeah.
so he definitely does agree with that. So mess around. What is your thoughts?
Well, I'm a huge soccer guy now. I know a lot about it, right? Anyway, I don't mind it. Like, these guys can do more with their head than I can do with my foot kicking a ball, so it's impressive when I see it. It's exciting. It's like exciting to see a guy hit the ball with his head and score a goal. I don't mind it. I like it.
All right, Callan.
I think we are in a gray area with this topic, and having been around college soccer for 14 years of basically combined 14 years between my Division II and D1 university, and then going on 11 years in the professional indoor game, and having worked some spattering of professional soccer. There won't be a way to outlaw it, sadly. Now, I think what you can do, and I think that MLS put the onus on this when the league first started back in '96, because I remember seeing ads when I was younger in the late 90s, early 2000s, that they were requiring kids under a certain age threshold to wear what Brandon was talking about, like the whatever they were using for football, but it's called the full 90. It's basically like a padded helmet, basically. For kids who are like under the age of 18 or under 14, I think. And yes, even though I know a lot of players I've known who've played collegiately or in the pros who have had to retire because of concussions. One of the best ones is Taylor Twellman, who's one of the lead ESPN analysts who played for the New England Revolution, had to stop because of concussions. A lot of college kids I've known have stopped because of concussions. But I think, though, that it would be difficult to get the entire globe on board for this, because then you'd be almost talking about two separate versions of the game, where if the States or North America outlaws heading, but the rest of the world, still allows it, then you'd be having, not really, it's not conflict of interest, but like contrasting styles. And then, what does that mean for maybe some of the, best American soccer talent down the pipeline if heading is in fact gone? Do they even bother playing in the States? Do they, defect MLS and go to the other, leagues in Europe or the Bundesliga or, La Liga, what have you, basically. So I would think I would put more of the onus on heading at the youth soccer level, under age 14 or under 12, under 10, you have to wear the headgear, or you have to at least be properly trained, or it has to be, properly worked on by coaches to make sure that kids know what they're doing. Though I am actually on board with James more so on the slide tackles, because, I've seen a lot of tackles that begin brawls that have broken out in my time doing collegiate soccer, even in the pros. Sometimes it gets really out of control, notably in one of the most recent games I did at my university. Something came out of a tackle and the whole entire field began pushing and shoving, and one guy got a red card, other guys got yellow cards. But also there also has to be an onus, though, on the referee crew. And I saw this, in the game I literally just came home from at the school I work at, is, okay, something went against my school. He warned our player. Something happened with the opposition, warned that player. So, okay, both teams have been warned now. Now this is where you begin pulling out cards. If the referee is not going to take control of the game, that's when more things get out of control, like a tackle from behind. A guy goes studs up and nails a dude in the knee or in the shin or in the back of the leg, or, and heaven forbid he rips an ACL or tears his Achilles or, snaps an ankle or whatever. The onus is, I think, is not just on the players to not play reckless, but also the onus has to be on the officiating crew to keep the players safe. And I know it's difficult to do, though. But with heading, I know about the fact that we're trying our best to limit the concussion issues. I think we've seen it firsthand, though, guys, in the NFL with, the years of lawsuits, notably, Dave Dumerson, Junior Seau, Steve McNair, guys who, were stars, but again, never really saw it or were able to get the treatment that they needed because of the competitive shots to the head, though. Soccer, I do think, though, they are trying their best, I think, to make the game safe when it comes to head injuries, whether it is, deflecting a shot in with your head for a goal or putting it on goal for, for a shot, or even if it is, a couple of players, just happen to conk heads, and that just, sadly, it's just part of the game. So I don't think that there's a way to fully eradicate players using their heads in soccer, because if you do that, then you're talking about, the game being played one way in this country and one way, the rest of the way that the game is supposed to be played. But I would probably put more of an onus, though, on officials keeping a close eye, though, on how the teams are playing. If it's getting out of control, keep a close eye on that. But also the bigger onus, though, is keeping kids playing club soccer, youth soccer, travel soccer safe. Once they're beyond 14, 16, or 18, you can take the headgear off. But I'd say if they're just starting out, if they're very young, don't try to, don't let them use their heads. Let's kind of build, up until they're older. But again, it would be very tough to eradicate heading from the game, sadly.
All right, so Will saying, I've had 5 diagnosed concussions between baseball and football. That doesn't include all the other times my bell has been rung. When I signed up for the game, I knew it could happen, but so much worse could happen too. And then my brother's also saying, Padres just beat the Dodgers in a series for the first time in over 2 years. So all right. So Crispy, what's your thoughts on heading in soccer?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to take it out of the game. You can probably limit it, but that means you're probably going to have to limit it to all, like, North American soccer leagues, associated football leagues, like Premier League, Champions League, something like that. Because all those players play year-round, it seems like, plus you got the World Cup and all the other soccer tournaments, so you're going to have to find a way to limit it. I don't know if you can really do a trial run.
All right. So, transitioning from this next topic, I was actually pretty excited about, and the reason I was excited about this, because this has kind of been an ongoing topic, especially in the NBA. This is something that you see quite often. We talk about teams resting their star players, but now we're seeing that the NBA is now going to pass that rule. They're going to start getting more stricter with this. And now they're saying that they're going to start issuing fines of up to $1 million if these teams are going to start resting their star players over and over and over and over and over again, and they call it load management. So and that's exactly what Jason's saying too. So Big B, let me ask you, do you agree with this rule? Like, do you agree that they should be more stricter with this?
Yeah. I think local radio here was talking about it, that a player X amount of days off during the season. They actually got to keep track of it, from what I was hearing from the radio station. So and you can't have 2 superstars off, so LeBron and Dwight Howard can't take the same day off. And then it's a different with age. It's a different with level of all-starness or whatever they want to. So it's a lot of work for the teams to do this now. So they're putting more of a guideline in there, which again probably should have started when the Spurs were the kings of doing this with their superstars. I mean, I don't know how to see it. I guess it'll be interesting to see what this how this plays in effect this upcoming basketball year. Like they said on the radio station, now if I'm a superstar, I have to go ask if I qualify for the day off, if I have enough, so I can spread them out. So it's going to be interesting to see which team breaks that rule right away and gets those fines, and how lenient they are.
Sorry, James, it'll be the Clippers that break it first.
So
But yeah, no, but that was one thing I was going to say. Exactly what Jason says is that I feel like this time all the team has to do is say, "Oh, this person is injured. This is what's going on." So they're sitting because they are injured. I feel like they can do that. I feel like they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I have a broken toe, or I sprained my toe, so I can't play," or something. It's a wrist injury. I feel like a lot more teams are going to try that now, so they're not saying it's load management, that it's like a legit injury, I guess.
Yeah,
But
but just remember that if you're a team that say, you're the Lakers and you want LeBron to win MVP, you have to play at least 65 games, I think, to get that MVP or whatever award they have to have.
no, I get that.
Right.
I get that, but I'm saying in times to where they want to sit out, all they got to do is say, "Oh, I have a migraine."
Mm-hmm.
Like Jason saying, "Oh, I have a migraine." How can you prove that? You can't prove it. So you simply say, "Oh, I have a migraine. My head hurts. I can't play. I'm sick. I can't play." Something like that. So James, and I know you've talked about this in the past too, because I know it has upset you in the past about how the Clippers did it all the time. So, your opinion, do you feel like this is a good thing?
It looks good. It sounds good, but I know there's going to be teams that will find their way around it.
Mm-hmm.
They'll complain to the Players Association. There's always going to be some loopholes that will go through. There's just too much privilege in the NBA now. I think the commissioners messed up a lot of things, and this is one of them. This is like putting a Band-Aid over a big scrape, and you have a kid's Band-Aid, and it's like a bigger scrape than what you need a bigger Band-Aid. That's what it feels like. There's more problems in the NBA than just load management. I think the only way you can do this right, I think, if you shorten the regular season a bit and spread it out, I think that's the only way you can have an actual perfect way where, hey, everybody's playing. You don't have to worry about rest and load management. And I think we've all got to the point with the NBA where it's like, okay, it's not going to be the old way where, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, all the great players, determined players wanted to play every night because you paid your money.
Green.
Well, yeah, AC Green to a lesser extent, but he was the Iron Man, and I always admired that. It was like, hey, I know you don't do as much on the floor, but you rebound as hell. You're in the paint, you're getting physical, and you have to admire that. And now there's, I think, one guy in the league now, and the most games he's played in a row, the active streak is like 80-something. And that just really pissed me off when I read that last year. Just thinking how soft everybody kind of is now. And then it leads to more injuries. It seems like load management. I can see that with Kawhi Leonard. But yeah, I don't think this does much. Again, I think players are going to get away with it. As Colin said, the Clippers will probably be the first team to get fined. And it doesn't matter because the owner has a lot of money to pay the fines. Like these teams that have the stars, they have the money to pay the fines. And I think it's still going to be a problem throughout. It doesn't matter what the team is or who the players are that are sitting out. It's going to be a problem throughout the league. So I agree with the rule, but it's going to kind of be hard to enforce. So I'm not even watching the regular season this year. I'll just get to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that LeBrick and LeBum will have some kind of special privileges or something. So because LeBrick always has those special privileges or whatever. But mess around. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with James. Like, this generation of NBA players has gotten soft. I read a thing the other day that was talking about Jordan and how he went 3 years, played all 82 games, all 3 years, 2 MVPs, 3 Finals MVPs, and 3 scoring titles. He didn't miss a single game in those 3 years. You're not going to see that now with these superstars. They're just too soft. Any excuse to take a night off.
Yes, Jason. It's also LaFlop too. You can say LeBum, LeBrick, LaFlop. It doesn't matter. Whichever one. All three of those names. LaSoft. You can say that too. That's fine. So, Callan, your thoughts.
It's actually funny. I was going to have this on press row for the debut pod tomorrow here on C2C because I see a lot of, or I see like the reasoning why the NBA would go this route because they are, though, at the end of their media contracts right now. And again, if you're going to sell the product to the whole country and the world, you need to have the star players out there. But I still don't think that there's going to be a proper way to really enforce this system. Now, I'm kind of skimming through Adrian Wojnarowski's article on ESPN.com. And so it's going to be a 3-tier fine system if, in the event some team, violates the rules. So it's $100K for the first offense, $250 for the second, and over $1 million every time after the third strike, basically, of this rule. The commissioner said that the league will continue to study the data and science of injuries and how much rest will be needed for applicable injuries. Now, the league memo dives a bit further in depth here. I don't want to, make my thoughts too long, but enforcement will be based on league office investigations, which will include independent medical rate reviews. So the first part of the memo reads that teams have to manage the roster to ensure that no more than one star player is unavailable for the same game. So they give an example. The Celtics could not rest both Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum for the same game unless they're both injured. Teams have to ensure that their star players are available for nationally televised games and in-season tournament games. Now, that part I totally understand because if you're going to be out here selling your product to, ESPN, Fox, or whatever potential, bidders will be bidding for the NBA rights, how bad of a look does that give the league when LeBron's not playing, AD's not playing, Kawhi and Paul George are out, Tatum and Brown are out? Like that really, hurts, with the TV side. The third point reads that teams have to refrain from any long-term shutdowns or near shutdowns when a star player stops partaking in games or plays in a materially reduced role in circumstances affecting the integrity of the game. Under that scenario, the Wizards and Blazers would have been investigated by the league for shutting down Bradley Beal for 10 games. And Dame Dollar was out for 11 games, respectively, at the end of the season. I also sadly think that the Mavericks may have been under that scrutiny too, fellas, because of how they totally shut down Luka and Kyrie with 5 games to go in the regular season. This part, though, here in this memo, this part in the memo, though, I absolutely think is the only part that really has to be enforced. Teams have to manage a balance between the number of one-game absences for star players in home and away games, with the preference being that those absences happen in home games, not on the road. That is the one I think that you can only really enforce, or that should be enforced, along with the last bullet point that those that are, or teams have to ensure that healthy players resting for a game are present and visible to the fans at the game. I more am concerned about bullet point 4 and 5 because, guys, the NBA, in my opinion, is like the second most expensive seat to get other than the NFL. I would probably go the NFL, the NBA, the National Hockey League, and then MLB or even MLS, although Lionel Messi has changed the MLS on its, flipped it on its head with Inter Miami right now. But, I think about that mom or, that family of 4 or that father and son who want to go see the kid's favorite player play, and they don't live in that market. For example, San Diego doesn't have a team here, but that would be like going to LA, seeing the Clippers or Lakers play, and Kawhi and George are out, or LeBron and AD are out, and thinking about, parking, gas, food, souvenirs, you name it. Especially, I think, though, it's more of a notice, though, that I think I mainly only want bullet points 4 and 5 to be enforced, because I really think it does a major disservice to a league, mainly the NBA, when you play an 82-game season. And the fact, though, that guys were allowed to basically, pick and choose when to play, I would rather them miss home games, because damn well that you can play at home any time of day. But what about those fans, though? Again, Laker fans living in Cleveland, living in St. Paul, living in Chicago, living in Dallas, again, Dallas, they make multiple trips. But again, for example, LeBron, Western Conference team in the Lakers, going to play the Knicks in MSG. And there's, Laker fans all over the globe, though. They pay all the money to go see LeBron, and then you find out he's not playing. I would rather there be more of an onus on the bullet point 4 and bullet point 5, though, is that if you're going to miss time at home. And indeed, as James, I think, brought up here on Coast to Coast a while back, though, he'd rather see guys that are not playing at least be not sitting there with their shades on and counting their dollars and cents and, and kissing babies and counting off how many rings that they've won. I'd rather would see those points emphasized. But guys, I still don't think that there's going to be a proper way to really enforce this because, guys can basically, say, hey, I threw up my back sleeping. I can't play tonight. Hey, I jam my finger, slicing open an apple or something, doing something stupid at the house. I can't play tonight, and I do think though, that even though like we maybe pile on the Spurs for starting the whole load management thing. And then, and the Clippers, I mainly think it was more so done along with the fact of what Mark Cuban and what the Mavericks did with Kyrie and Luka when they were still like right there on the doorstep of the postseason, kind of in a way intentionally bombing their chance of the playoffs though. So if anything, it's a good starting point. I don't know if you can really pull it off though in that manner in regards to, making, the reports of injuries being, available like a day before the game, or you have a deadline of when you have to have your roster of available players out there. But I want more of an onus done on bullet point 4 and 5 of that memo, where again, if you're going to miss time, you're missing time at home. You're going to be out there, whether you like it or not, playing in these, out of market cities though, because these fans are paying their hard-earned money to come watch you play though. And I also, though, it is a bargaining chip, I think, that the NBA is trying to use, though, to get a better television contract. And I don't know if that means Amazon, Apple TV Plus, like what MLS is doing for the next 7 years, and they got at least like $5 billion out of that deal with Apple, or it's going to be ESPN, or, maybe NBC comes back to the fray. But it's a good starting point. I, though, am still in favor of a full 82-game season because, guys, for heaven's sakes, the NHL wants to make it a 84-game season scheduled to add 2 more games for rivalries like Anaheim, LA, Boston, Montreal, which I think is perfectly fine, though. And for that matter, they want to put a team back in Atlanta for the 3rd time from Front Office Sports. I'll have more about that on Press Row on Thursday afternoon. But for the NBA, though, good starting point. Don't know how well it's going to really go over, though, if, the Clippers, for example, or the Lakers, even for that matter. But at the same time, though, the bigger onus has to be play on the road. Don't gyp the fans who traveled a long way or sport a lot of money to see their their favorite player of their team come one time and one time only if they don't live in your market. Simple as that.
All right, Crispy Bacon, your thoughts, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to enforce some of these rules, but I mean, it's a good start. We'll just see how it goes. And I think for the most part, everybody will abide by them. But I think towards the end of the season, you'll probably see, a couple key players out.
All right. So we'll kind of just get everybody's final thoughts. So, Big B, I'll go ahead and start out with you. Your final thoughts for the evening.
It's always good to sit and talk with everybody sports-wise. I mean, sports, I think one thing that we all learn is everybody has an opinion, right or wrong. Got to respect it, unless it's way out there in left field. But just can't wait to see us redo this next week.
All right, James, any final thoughts?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having me here. I'm going to go load manage in my bed and go to sleep.
That sounds good. All right, mess around. Any
$1,000 fine, Mr. Gonzalez.
Final thoughts? I don't know. I'm sitting here drinking this Mountain Dew hard watermelon thing. Neighbor gave me. It's not bad.
Dave, I had a Dr. Pepper at work today in your honor, and you're drinking Mountain Dew over here, man. Come on now. What a disservice. I'm kidding.
It's alcohol. It's the alcohol thing. I had to try it.
There you go. Good man.
All right. Kellen, any final thoughts?
No, I'm glad I was able to pop in after work. I was glad I was able to chime in about the MVP debate for Major League Baseball and talk a little shop with the NBA and talk a little bit about, some baseball and some other topics. But we're going to get Press Row going tomorrow at 1 o'clock Pacific, 3 o'clock Central. We'll talk more about that NBA rule. We'll also talk about Turfgate involving Aaron Rodgers, and I'll have a bit more about that NHL to Atlanta for a 3rd time story, and also some spattering of talk of the Thunder wanting a new arena in OKC. So we'll see how things go. But we'll have that and much more on Press Row tomorrow. Again, we're talking sports business and sports media, 1 o'clock Pacific, 3 o'clock Central, right here on Coast to Coast. Can't wait to get going. It's going to be great.
All right, thank you. Crispy, any final thoughts?
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching, tuning in. On deck is the Saturday morning tailgate Sunday, so baseball and football this weekend, and stay tuned for more and Four Bros Friday.
And congrats to the Braves again, Adam, for their 6th straight division championship. I just now saw the score.
Thank you. Yep, I was very, very excited about that again. But in the words of
Overrated.
But in the words of Max Fried, when they interviewed him afterwards, and they said, "How do you feel about the season and winning the division title?" He said, "That's just the first checkbox. We haven't won nothing yet."
Love the mentality, baby.
So, Max Fried, congrats, man. That shows the mentality that you have, saying, "Yeah, you won this, but you haven't won nothing yet." So there you go. So I really hope you're ready for that. So everybody have a fantastic night, and we will see you next Wednesday for another episode of Sports Minute. Have a good night.